episode is this? 38?
38.
38.
Jesus Christ.
Climbing
the numbers.
Gonna be I think hard to follow up episode 37.
Full disclosure, I don't remember anything about 37.
I don't either right now.
Yeah.
It was our Doom and Gloom episode. Modular Dystopia.
Oh, yeah.
Where we kind of laid it on about the situation of like components and modular in general. I don't know how we went down that road. Like that wasn't the plan, but we just kind of ended up going down that road and it got kind of doomy.
It was the WMD announcement. We had to talk about that.
That's right. That's what tripped it off. Yeah. And I guess we struck a nerve a bit. We got some retweets and some mentions out there.
Yeah.
That's good.
In the World Wide Web.
Unfortunately, though, this is not like the sort of plot twist or, the hero arc of redemption. I mean, it's not like a lot has changed significantly in that time since that last episode.
No.
It's not like, the chips are raining from the sky. It's still pretty bad.
Yeah, a few more companies announced they're stopping since the last episode, which was only, maybe 3 months ago tops?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. But yeah, I think Livestock Electronics shut down. And they weren't like a bigger player. They made like the Maze. Do you remember that? Like it was that Matrix thing. Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 others.
Hex Inverter. I
don't remember. Hex Inverter. No,
yeah, I don't think we mentioned that one last time.
Yeah, I think that was between them. And that was also that's it for the Mind Phaser.
Yeah.
Made, what was the estimate?
250 of them, and that was it.
So there are 250 of those on Earth, and I was always really intrigued by it. Like not to the point where I got it. It took up a lot of space.
Yeah.
But as far as like a sound and a complex oscillator, it was always one of those things. If I came across one,
yeah, I remember it was like your Easter egg. We had a hunt for at Nobcon, like 2 years in a row, hoping to catch a glimpse of it. Speaking of which, Nobcon just happened.
Apparently some stuff happened. Apparently it was not a good one for us to have missed.
Yeah, looked like a banger.
Yeah.
And we missed out.
And even I think last time I said like, smaller manufacturers list. And then the last time I looked at it, it was like just as big as ever. Mm-hmm. So seemed like it was a good time.
And some announcements.
It looked like a big list of manufacturers and people presenting. Smaller crowd, I guess, due to obvious reasons.
Right.
Which would have been enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
Would have been able to actually spend like some quality time with some of the stuff there. It's kind of bummed we missed it, but
travel's so pricey.
Yeah, and I wasn't boosted at that point.
I wasn't boosted yet, and I was still sick.
Yeah, so like now that I'm boosted, I'm like way more. I'd be way more into it. But at the time, I was a little bit like, I'm not really super excited about going to a bunch of like basically disease vectors converging in one spot.
Get the con crud.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like the week after camp out for me too. So I was like, I'm not going anywhere.
But yeah, the online documentation of it looked like a good one.
It did. Yeah.
There was a few things there that caught my eye.
That's not actually in any of my notes. Nobcon announcements. I know there was a couple of things where I was like,
yeah. Was it the new, I don't know if the new Roland TR8S or TR6S firmware was announced on that. I think Roland was there. I think it was.
Yeah.
And something else was announced. I can't remember what it was.
Neither.
The, was it the Korg drum machine?
Maybe. That might have
been. It was definitely around that time.
Yeah, it was around that time.
Yeah, well.
Which I forget the name of already.
Drumlog?
Drumlog, yeah. It's like the monologue or whatever they had.
The mini log, monologue, drum log.
Yeah. I mean, the drum log looks interesting. I don't know if I'm going to go run out and get it. But I have an eye. Keeping
an eye on it.
Yeah. See where it goes.
The main thing that caught my eye there was the Modbap Trinity.
Mm.
Right.
There was a couple recordings of like, Modbap describing what it can do. And then there was like a couple one-on-one recordings people made of it.
So real quick though, what is this?
What is that?
3-channel drum synth module that really has my attention.
It's digital, right?
I think it's entirely digital, but I know one of the models is meant to replicate analog drum.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Like, you can get your TO8, 808 style sounds out of it and such. But like the other models are definitely digital. Like you got some FM, you have like physical modeling, things like that.
So what about it caught your eye? Like, why are you fired up for it?
The fact that it's multiple drums in one, it was interesting. It's not a super cheap module. It's like $550, I think, is the retail. But like you're getting 3 drums out of it, and it has built-in like mixing, saturation. The fact that it's can do so many different models really catches my eye. Like that's what used to appeal to me about like the BIA, for example. You know what I mean? You could get you could work some kick sounds out of it, hat sounds, percussive stuff. Like it was a versatile module, but creating an array of them like I did for a minute to try and function as a drum machine, super fucking expensive.
Right.
Very.
So wait, compared to something like the LXR module though, which sounds like that also would do a lot of what you've just described.
I think the LXR is a good competitor for sure, and I was close to buying it. But you have a lot more dedicated CV on the Trinity that appeals to me. It looks like you could really do some interesting sound design on this thing. And also the range of it, like the audio range that was in some of those demos, sounded really good to my ears. Like the kick can go super low, super beefy, and then all the way up to like, weird percussive sounds and things like that. The LXR kind of lacks that CV ability. You get more drums out of the LXR, like double the amount of drums for roughly the same price. But I feel like the Trinity is way more versatile.
Yeah.
So I was really stoked on that. And just the models sounded good to my ears. Like there wasn't any sounds coming out of it that I didn't like, which is rare for a drum module.
Oh, absolutely.
Most of the drum modules out there that I've played with or have heard, like, I'm not going to be using like 60% of the sounds usually.
Especially when you have that sort of first reveal video or a couple of clips. Normally those first ones are the least appealing for the three of us at least.
It makes me think like a LXR that's just 2 drums in a slimmer module, like less price. That would be amazing. That would actually probably satisfy me for the LXR.
Yeah. And as we've all discussed here, like you were diving deeper into drums and module. I was kind of backing out,
right?
And doing most of them in box and in VCV rack lately. Trinity has kind of pulled me back in.
So, real quick question about the Trinity: it's 3 channels. Are they identical, or are they do they have distinct different like capabilities? Could you make like what you just said? Could you just make 3 of the same drums?
You can make 3 of the same, or 3 completely different sounds.
Oh, cool!
They can all be routed out of the submix, or they can all have dedicated outs. Or both.
Oh, that is nice,
or both. So you could send like a submix of everything through like an effect while having the direct outs all being processed differently. Like that was super appealing to me.
Is it stereo?
I don't think it's stereo.
I don't think so.
No. But you could easily like start to make things stereo with all those mixing capabilities, I guess. Yeah, and just the way it has like dedicated like character knobs, it seemed to just add different textures to the model, and it can all be CV'd. Every channel has like dedicated CV, as compared to like the LXR, where I think you only have like 4 that you have to figure out where you're routing.
Right, you have to route
between 6, 7 drum voices, So yeah, the flexibility of it really caught my eye. I have it on pre-order currently. And that's going to be my gateway back into modular drums. So we'll see how that goes.
Seems like similar in spirit to the Winter Modular collab one,
Yeah, which still isn't out.
Oh, that's still not out? I was going to ask. I was like, oh, did you ever try that? And then I thought, like,
I've been waiting for over a year now for that to come out. The, what was it? Zaps?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That was like 3 or 4 episodes ago.
That was a while. I forgot about that.
It's funny because I posted like on Reddit on the modular thing. Someone was asking about the Westlake Performer or the Eloquencer, and I commented on there. It was like one of the most upvoted things or whatever, and it was like, oh, like that's a dead project. They haven't updated it. Like they had this pre-pandemic build, and just yesterday, and this was like half a year ago that I posted this. Someone replied to my comment, and they were like, hey, a bunch of us have like taken over that project or something like that, and there are going to be updates coming soon. And I was like, oh, interesting. So that's I don't know if like Winter Modular like gave that code to somebody, because they were super cagey about releasing source code, and they were just like, oh yeah, just
seemed to be like a neglected stepchild for a while there.
Totally. For years it hasn't had updates, even though he's like, oh, I've got these builds with all this stuff, just one more feature. So we'll see. Maybe they'll give it some love. Had a lot of promise.
Are they putting it up on GitHub or open source somewhere?
No idea. It was like a really vague comment.
Okay.
Like one sentence, not much detail.
Yeah, originally I was super excited about that Zaps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the same
Yeah.
reasons. A lot of CV capability. You could save snapshots and then CV between them, things like that. You can't do that with Trinity exactly, I don't think. You might be able to save your drums. I think you can, but I don't think you can CV, like, change them.
Right.
But even still, like, with the amount of CV that it has, like, you know, that's really appealing to me, and you can just shape what you want.
Right.
And Zaps was only like one voice, whereas like this is 3. So.
I thought Zaps was multi. Interesting. I'm sure you're right. That's a big module for one voice.
Yeah.
So is this out? Is it coming soon? Is it pre-ordered? Like I don't know the state of this.
Expected delivery, I think, was early November. So about a month away, roughly 2 months.
Yeah. And what's the
month
company?
is it now?
Oh, I have no idea.
I think it's October now.
Modbap.
Yeah,
Modbap. Gotcha. I think it is October because I'm drinking a beer that is normally white and black. It's orange and black.
Yes, look at that. Spooky.
Signifying that it's probably October.
And wait a minute.
It is.
No.
Well, it's
pumpkin ale, Dave.
It's on pumpkin spice. It's a pumpkin ale. It's actually not bad. It's by a local brewery.
I bet it has spice in it.
Oh, there's a little bit. There's like a almost like a molasses type taste. But it's not like cloyingly sweet or anything.
It's like making my stomach hurt just looking at it.
Yeah, it's not one of those. I bet there's more than enough for.
Nah, I'm good.
You sure?
I'm gonna keep drinking my nasty tea.
What if this is the thing that actually clears up all of your
Just
illness?
cures me.
Yes. But in any case, yeah, I think it's October. So it's actually pretty soon, or ETA soon.
Yeah, it seems like there's a bunch of stuff coming down the pipe for October and November.
I mean, hopefully those are real and not just optimistic.
Yeah.
Projections.
Yeah, because I'm excited to try it.
Any guesses on the new IntelliGel Cascadia?
No.
I'm guessing a delay.
No,
Just by the nature of the name.
I think you're probably onto something there,
Right.
especially because the announcement came right as like Qubit announced their new delay that I forget the name of already.
It is the Nautilus. I have
Nautilus.
I have
Okay.
notes on the Nautilus
Yeah.
because I am very excited about that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
If IntelliGel did a new delay, I'm guessing it'll be like a more user-friendly Rainmaker.
I would think so.
I would
They'll
hope
go
so.
over well.
Yeah.
You know?
We'll see.
And
I
they
guess.
don't have many effects now that I think about it.
No.
You know? They
Not
have
at
like
all.
the spring reverb one, but
Yep.
like not too many. They don't have like a reverb or like a
They do
more
in the
straight up
1U.
delay.
It can be a chorus, delay, or reverb, and I've always been annoyed that that doesn't exist in 3U.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like the perfect basic utility effect, and it's cheap. I'm like, yeah, I would have like 4 of those in my rack
Sure.
if they existed as 3U. I don't have a fancy 1U rail.
When did 1U become fancy?
Oh, it's
And not just a
fancy.
It's fancy.
random
You
throw on.
highbrow,
Yeah.
high-end Cadillac case drivers with your fancy 1Us and your,
Hiding your little
and your
modules.
self-driving technology, and your heated seat subscription.
Heated modular tile. Wow.
I just have old school clunky ass dope for P9 cases,
I have heated patch
circa
cables.
2000.
Each one has a little 9-volt battery. It's a really unwieldy system,
Yeah.
but so cozy.
Oh yeah. And I get an alert whenever whatever I'm working on sounds like shit. It calls me and says, "Listen, this is your
What are you doing, Dave?
This is your IntelliGel OnStar assistant. We're gonna have to ask you to stop.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible."
We're going to have to ask you to take that oscillator out of that filter.
Exactly.
It is not a good pick.
It just speaks to you like HAL 9000.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave.
Just starts shutting your modules off.
Afraid I can't stand this anymore, Dave.
Also, it's just the computer voice for my cats.
Fuck.
But yeah, no. Circling back around, IntelliGel does not have a huge stable of effects.
No.
I don't know. The weird teaser way of like announcing something like that is a little weird. Like, sure, it's gotten
Yeah.
us talking about it, but it's kind of like, dude, just show us the panel and
I
some
just
sound demos.
Hate it when they, like, if you want to tease for like 3 to 5 business days, then go right ahead. But like, I just hate when the Electron style where it's like 2 months later and they're
Yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
here's a button pad. It's like, fuck.
I'm not into that at all. It doesn't get me hyped. It gets me more annoyed.
Yep.
It makes me want to like not pay attention to it at that point.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, fuck you.
Also, as like as a
Trying to tease me.
as like a kid, like I remember like that was a big thing of like the billboard that just had like a single word on it, and it was
Right.
like with like that sort of like artificial hype generator thing, and it was like, ooh, what is it? It's so mysterious. I have no idea what it is, and it was like some Chanel perfume or something,
Right.
something I had no interest in, but like it always got me. I'm like, ooh, it's just a black billboard with like 2 words in the middle of it, and I'm like, ooh, what could it be?
coming.
I'm like, ooh, fuck, what could that be? And then and it turned out to be something dumb. So I have a knee-jerk reaction against any attempt to like capture that that spirit.
It'd be cool if it was even just more upfront. Like, we have a new effect coming. Like, don't buy like any effects until this comes out.
Yes,
And be like, okay, cool.
Just be
Maybe I will.
straightforward. Like, fuck Qubit.
Yeah.
Right.
We're coming out with a delay too.
Yep. Just do it.
Just wait. We're gonna blow it out of the water.
I mean, it's funny you say water because it's Nautilus and sort of water themed.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wasn't super interested at first because I was like, I don't need like a delay network thing, and like the Qubit Aurora was like interesting, but like wasn't necessarily for me. And then there's just more and more of these sound demos, and they post them on their site, and they were linking to them, and I'm like, fuck if that doesn't sound good. Like I'm like, this is actually really interesting. And then the thing that really sort of made me like my ears perk up and take notice is they've got this it's called the Sonar Output, and it's gates and CVs that are output from Nautilus based on all of the weird sort of internal logic that it has.
I missed that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm like, oh shit! So you can like, as this like network of, and it's it's a stereo delay, and it's these 8 lines sort of working, and you've got control over how they interact and like how much saturation and how much depth and all of these sort of things. But as it's making it sort of decisions and processing over time, it's spitting out CV and gate. And I don't have a good, it's a little mysterious right now. I don't know what the logic behind it is, but I have to admit there's something about the idea of like actually having that sort of hook into this delay network.
Right. Like, is it a series of like fixed comparators at different voltage levels or something?
I don't know. I mean, like, or is it like 2 lines cross and that's a gauge, or I don't know. But it sort of like piqued my curiosity in this way of like, ooh, what could I do? What could I do with that? Because I don't remember any sort of delay line processor that had this sort of vomiting of its internals.
Yeah.
Like that.
Plays to your recent like Leibniz
Yes.
kind of obsession.
Yes.
The verbose multi-delay kind of does that. Like it has individual tap outs and also like the envelope followers for each tap.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only thing that,
Which is cool. I mean, that
does
also
that
sounds
side of
amazing
the
too.
business.
Yeah.
Or the spectral Sputnik that I have will generate like envelopes based on frequency bands.
Oh,
and
nice.
stuff like that, which is really cool.
So as I like sort of like looked into this more, one thing that like gave me a little bit of pause is that the settings for this is all done through a web app. It generates a file, and then you put that onto the USB that goes in the front. It's front facing, but there was a split second where I was like, oh fuck, I already have a number of things now that have like web interface configuration and shit. And I'm like, do I really want one more fucking thing that's like, I gotta go to a website to configure? And that's the only, like, as of right now, the only thing that's like kind of, and it's also a little pricey. It's like $400.
yeah, for a delay.
Yeah.
It's up that puts it up there with like the verbose.
Yeah.
And the Rainmaker.
Or some badass delay pedals that have CV.
Exactly. So this is not a casual purchase. Like if it was half the price or like 150, it'd be one of those things like I'm at least gonna give it a shot. So now I'm kind of like, I'm on the fence, and also it doesn't exist yet. So until I actually see it, I'll believe it.
I kind of I wasn't sold on it. Like, I think the Nautilus, sort of like most qubit modules that I've played with, kind of has like a plasticky bucket sound. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but like almost every qubit module I've ever owned, I end up not liking it because it has this like tone that I just can't describe other than being in a plastic bucket.
Yeah.
It's fucking weird, and it always kind of annoys me. And I noticed in the demos with Nautilus that it's like present more than ever to my ears. And I was just like, okay, this all sounds like plastic to me.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
weird.
No, I did not pick that up, and now I will have my ears peeled.
Because The Aurora is kind of like that too, but I think on the default firmware, it kind of works in its favor for that kind of spectrally shit. But the moment I tried that like feedback delay network reverb, it was like, I was repulsed by it almost. I was like, oh, this like doesn't sound like, I was trying to use it in a live context too. And I'm like, okay, this isn't, it's kind of regular, but it just didn't sound quite right to me. Like the effects aid was immediately better and more to like what my ears were looking for. And I switched it back to the Aurora and was like, okay, cool. Now it's like what I want, but I don't know. I don't know about their effects like you're saying.
Yeah. Well, even like, what was it? The Nebula that I had for a minute.
Oh,
Everything came out of that sounding plasticky too. It was kind of annoying to me. But yeah, I agree. The default mode of Aurora was like the only time that I felt like that plasticky sound worked okay. And like, you know, was ignorable to me. But everything else always sounds plasticky. I don't know why. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just kind of like there to my ears.
Well, now I'm going to add that to the list of cons on my list of pros and cons.
There you go.
It's just going to say plastic bucket.
Plastic bucket.
Plastic bucket.
Do you have a list of cons other than price?
No, just price and the web setting app. Outside of that, I thought it sounded good.
The web thing seems like you could probably just kind of set it and forget it. Maybe, you know, it's
I'm
not
hoping
something
that's
you'd
the
have to
case.
Keep going back to it often.
Yeah, and if it really ends up being just like low level stuff that I'm not changing that often, it won't be that big of a deal. And honestly, it's not a big con. The big one is just that that's a lot of money. I already have 2 effects aids, and maybe that $400 could go somewhere else. But
And the Sound of Shadows now.
And the Sound of Shadows. But I have to admit, the Sonar Output, and again, you're right, this is probably just my Leibniz. I've been neck deep in Leibniz for a month or two now. Just anything that's randomly setting out gates and CV is going to catch my attention. That's what I'm into right now.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'm curious to hear how you jive with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not a done deal.
Yeah,
but I do like drinking, and I do make dodgy purchases while I'm drunk. So, did I ever tell you about the time that I went on an Etsy tabletop war game terrain spree?
No.
Ooh. We're playing this game, Rangers of Shadow Deep, and it needs tabletop like terrain, like trees and rocks and sort of stuff.
Grass.
Yeah. Well, you can get away with not having grass. You can have like a big mat.
Topsoil.
Fire hydrant with a dog humping it.
Yeah.
You do need the fire hydrant with the dog humping it. But
Jagger bush.
And I'm like, I'm gonna get a couple things. And like I was like, I'm gonna get like a tiny little house, and we get like maybe some fence and a rock. And basically I got like blackout drunk and just started buying anything and it was all from different Etsy sellers. And so and I'm like, you know what? I'm not even gonna look to see what I bought. It was like for like 3 weeks, every day I'd go out and like, oh, here's more shit I evidently
Christmas again.
Exactly. Here's more shit I evidently ordered. So now I've got like a fucking like small village.
That's kind of awesome.
So that is how I imagine I'm gonna end up with a Qubit Nautilus.
Nice. That's how I ended up with a few things while I was sick. Like I wasn't sleeping because I was just coughing my brains out all night and all jacked up on whatever the fuck they put in that breathing treatment shit they gave me and steroids and the whole 9 yards. So I was just like, plus all the cold medicine. Like I was just on another fucking planet for like 2 weeks straight. And then the same deal. I would come down, check my mail, and then all of a sudden there was like a new module box. I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? It was like I was trying not to buy anything, but ended up with some shit.
Other Greg is making this difficult for me to pay my bills this month.
Yes.
Other Greg is having a great time, but Other Greg is becoming a problem.
Very much so. And then I had to remember that I will have hospital bills coming and shit too. And I was like, no, I really shouldn't be buying shit right now. In fact, I even had to cancel my Perkins pre-order, unfortunately, because of that. I was like, all the hospital bills added up to like the cost of a Perkins pretty much. And I was like, well, there's my Perkins.
So what number in the Perkins line at Sweetwater did you rise up to?
I think 111.
Oh, so you made some moves.
Yeah. I was getting up there, but actually I heard that those are getting delayed even further.
Yeah.
So I don't fully regret it. It sounds like it's nebulous now that they will even ship out in November.
Yeah.
So.
And I think I also saw that a couple places got a shipments of pulsars in, like restock of pulsars.
Yeah. I think they're competing.
Yeah.
Like we called it whenever Perkins was first announced.
Right.
It seems to be that way right now. Like the most most people compare, like, if I'm going to spend $2,000
Yeah,
on a
exactly.
weird drum machine,
Yeah.
is it going to be Perkins or is it going to be Pulsar?
But it did seem like Pulsar was like, but we're actually here. If you got
That's
the,
true.
like, you're in line for that other thing. We got this actually
You
available.
can actually buy this. There was a grip of Pulsars that showed up used too, right? When like Perkins supposedly started like shipping out. So I guess a lot of people were curious to try the other side of the street.
Right.
Vareschi Mastering. VARESCHI Mastering.com. I'm done with this project and it sounds bad. What do I do? How about Vareschi Mastering? Oh, cool. Philippe will work with you to get you where you want your sound to fucking go. VARESCHI Mastering.com. Philippe will help you with your sonic issues.
So, Nick, do you have anything on your list?
Yeah, speaking of drum machines, the TR6S, which was kind of a probably somewhat altered Amazon purchase because they popped up. They're normally like $500, and I was always like, cool. It's like mini TR8S, which I've had and sold, but I kind of missed. Like I liked playing live shows with it. Complements the rhythm really well, and they were selling it for like $260 for like a week on Amazon.
Yeah, that deal's
like,
kind of insane.
It was ridiculous. I'm so psyched I went for it because I love it.
I'm bummed that I missed it.
Same here. I knew about it. Russ and like posted about it and all that sort of stuff, and I basically did the thing of like, oh, I should get that, but then didn't get drunk enough to actually make the purchase. Like,
yeah,
actually have it because it's
look at that
this
cute
show
little
and tell.
thing
in my bag. Like if I am hanging out,
that's
with
adorable.
Steph, like,
First off, the case for it, or the lid,
oh yeah, little deck saver.
that is really fucking nice.
Deck savers are great. Then you don't need to get another bag, and you can just throw it in your book bag. But I fucking love the TR6S, dude. Especially since those latest updates with the FM drums and the probability.
That almost got me to buy another TR8S.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't spend that money right now.
I like this more. I think it's like the perfect size. It's like things are literally like closer for your hands if you want to edit it.
So real quick for our listeners, can you give us the elevator pitch as to what this is?
Oh yeah. So this is the Roland TR6S, which came out after the TR8 and then TR8S. So it's like a baby TR8S that actually just has fewer channels. I forget how many are on the TR8S. Do you still have one?
No.
Yeah. This one just has 6, and it just has one group of 3 knobs to edit. So it's kind of like soft knob style. You like select the drum you want, pick the thing. Other than that, you can even, I think, load like, I don't know. I think you can load TR8S stuff and it'll just truncate it at 6 channels, but it's the same thing. Same synthesis engine. Sounds fantastic. It's a little different in that it's powered from USB, no AC adapter, but that's fine. The one thing I realized is like, oh, it's nice. I can power this by the IntelliGel tile in my modular, but there's a ground loop hum with that. So I've got to like roll within a phone charger, which is just fine. It's got full size MIDI in and out, which is great. 1/4-inch outputs and an SD card, and that's pretty much it. So it's like stripped down.
Looks like just one pair of outputs compared to like TR8S's
no
multiple.
Individual outs.
And no dedicated
tap.
headphone.
There's dedicated 1/8-inch headphone
in
on
the
the
front.
front, which I use all the time. There's no tap button, but you can just shift tap this. Like it's really not bad to edit. You can shift edit anything. The editing capability on the little screen's cool. Honestly, I think it's like one of the coolest thing to like make full tracks with, even just like portable in your bag, because it's like you get little synth sounds. They neuter a little bit. You can't pitch by note the samples, and you can do that on the TR8S, I think, and on the MC 101 and 707. You can't really do it on this. They have a lookup table where it's like this parameter corresponds to like this pitch roughly. It would be really nice if you could like pitch things on this as a little keyboard. It would be killer.
What's on the screen? I see there's a screen at the top. What does that do?
That's all your editing parameters, like all the effects you're going to pick. Like that's how you go about editing the drums and the FM stuff and any other drum models. So you can just hit shift edits, go over here.
Yeah, that's what made me sell the 8S ultimately. It was trying to edit everything through that tiny little monochromatic screen was driving me kind of crazy. But
yeah, and it's not like The MC707 at least had a bigger screen that had a little more information. It's still a little divey, but even like for my purposes, I'm like using this live to layer on top of the rhythm for the most part. And like, it's just like the 808 and 909 stuff and some other drums. The little sliders are super rad live when I practice with it. Like, I'm really psyched on it. The output seems a little low to me. I don't know why, like compared to the rhythm, which has more volume. But once you get that like dialed in.
I see there's an SD card in the back. What all you save and load from
samples. So you can load like I think just sample transport. I think you can export setups onto it too and then load them from there. It's really cool. I love it with the rhythm. I think it sounds perfect. Like between this analog rhythm and the squid sample, I'm like, I can get any kind of drum flavor I really want for the most part.
Nice.
Really, really satisfied with it. I like the 8 variations. Somehow for me, it seems like easier to use than the TR-8S. I don't know why.
How do you do the variations? Like I don't see the little pattern grid like on the 8S.
It's missing. You just hit like shift and go over here, or hit shift and variation, and then these light up and you can just toggle between them or like group them together. So it's really easy to dupe stuff and make variations.
Neat.
It's another thing that you can like save while it's running too, and like it doesn't stop. So I can save my whole live set right now, like while it's running. Shit's just cool. It can keep going, which I dig.
Can you do any ratcheting or micro step stuff on there?
You can do micro step. They have like sub steps is the version on here, and then you can kind of change how those work a little bit.
Program like a roll basically is what I'm.
Yes, that's what the sub steps do. And I think you get triplet. There's some configurability within that. I forget how. I wish these pads were a little bigger. Like you can hit them live, but I bet I'm gonna fuck it up live maybe.
Do you mind if I hit one?
I mean, they're nice though. Not velocity sensitive, so you don't get velocity sensitivity.
I was able to isolate to just one, and I got big beefy hands. So that wasn't too bad. From here, it looks like it might be kind of tiny, but
yeah, but you can still manage. Like it's really not that bad. And I think I have the circuit tracks too. This is actually more fun just to like sit on the couch with and play for me. I don't know. The drum modeling on here sounds really good. It's a lot more satisfying for me than the MC707 was with just the sample-based approach.
Is there a battery?
No. Okay. Nope. Oh, wait. Can you? Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. Wow. You can definitely power with batteries.
Battery?
Yeah. That's awesome.
I forgot I have them in here. Yeah. That is cool. So it's pretty portable. They did a great job with this. I think at first I thought it was stupid. And I was like, why do they make that small little thing? And I know exactly why. Especially for $260, that is like the fucking most powerful drum machine you can get for that money.
So does that price no longer exist then?
It's not that I've seen. It was like a couple days, and I'm so glad I went for it because the next day it was gone.
Now, what's it like on Reverb right now? Because I mean, I
think they go like $300 to $400. You can probably get them for like $300 on Reverb. They're like $400 retail.
Yeah, I'm bummed I missed it.
Sounds so good.
$260, I would snag one for
with
sure.
All the
up, Greg.
automation. Yeah. It's incredible. Like a really.
I kind of thought that would be like the new price. You know what I mean? Like
That's
when you said that was the price, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll scoop one maybe someday.
Because it was right when the new OS dropped.
Right.
And it was the official like roll-in store on Amazon. And they had a few other stores that dropped prices to compete, but then they went like right back up.
Yeah, like you're saying, even as like something to take to the cabin, you know,
absolutely.
Like on a road trip jam or something.
Fit
That
in the
would be
bag
perfect.
very nicely.
Yeah, like I can take it somewhere, still make progress on a live set, or still make like a very satisfying beat. I have a problem with the circuit tracks. It's just not like super satisfying to use ever. It's cool, and I'm going to probably put more time into it over time, but like this is just so much more fun. Super fucking useful.
It's adorable.
It is.
Yeah.
It's super adorable. Yeah, and the stupid little deck saver.
Does it come with that, or did you have to get that aftermarket?
I got it off Juno. Juno is the place to get deck savers. I didn't realize they're always like $10 cheaper than anywhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, because some of those are kind of pricey. Like my Deluge one was like $60, which was like.
Yeah, I think my Taraz one was around $60.
Yeah, the Hapax was 40 or something. Yeah, they have discounted ones, it seems. You got to get it from the UK, and it takes a little longer, and they don't like track things. But yeah, when you realize like you're gonna get some kind of case to play it live or take it somewhere, and this is the smallest one, it's like in my bag a lot of the time now. It's so fun to just bring it around and use it.
Hell yeah.
Well, I'm super jealous.
Yeah, no, I highly, highly recommend this. I think it's, even at the regular price, I think it's fucking super tight. Especially if you want, like, it's a lot more fun than using 808, 909 samples.
Right.
And it sounds amazing.
Yeah, their virtual analog emulation stuff always sounded better to me than sample.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I don't like the Zen core synth engine. That's the main reason I sold the MC707 is I just really didn't like that synthesizer. I just didn't think it sounded great. I don't like the classic JD or JV kind of rolling preset Rompler sounds.
Right.
I get that they're classics, but I don't like working with them. Not fun.
You have the real deal still, right?
Which one?
Don't you have a Juno or you have a Jupiter, huh?
I have a Jupiter 6.
Yeah, never mind. Okay.
Which I'm probably actually going to sell again.
You've been on the cusp of selling that for a while now.
Yeah. Once it was fixed, Chase fixed it. Working great for a while. Started to have problems again. I kind of know what to do, but I'm just like, honestly, what I want to do, I want to sell it and get an Udo Super 6.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Because I could probably, sell it for more than that, make some money. And those are like $2,500 for the desktop. And it's like, it seems to cover similar territory, and I'd have something that's not 40 fucking years old.
Right. Because ultimately you still like the sound of that Jupiter.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the envelopes, which I've said before. The filters are amazing. The oscillators are amazing. I think the envelopes are shit, though. They kind of ruin it.
At this point, I would just keep it as like a display piece, if nothing else.
Oh, yeah. It's
chilling next to your 808 or something.
So you're keeping it for the flex. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
I've had it for 20 years at this point, too.
So now you kind of resent it. Like, there's like,
I do. It's a bad
this is animosity.
relationship.
Yeah.
Not a good one. But yeah, TR success. Go out and get one if you can.
I'm glad you brought it, actually, because I feel like seeing it up close and running through it real quick really sells it in a way that verbal description may not have done otherwise, because especially having used some of those other TR or the new TR stuff from Roland, which were fine, but they were monstrous.
Yeah, TR-8S is pretty big. Yeah, and with that editing style, you would think like, oh, more knobs is better on the TR-8S. Like, I'm not editing multiple drums at the same time very often. I'm going from one drum to the next, tweaking it to get it where I want, making the sequence, calling it a fucking day. So it's really not even, it doesn't feel awkward to me to edit it in any way. And the MC707, that felt like horror show compared to that. It was just, yeah, that was not a good time for me.
Right.
Have you had a chance to dive into that new FM firmware stuff at all? Yeah.
Yeah.
You dig it?
It's cool. It's a lot of fun. Weird shit.
Really appealing to me.
Yeah, it's stuff you wouldn't get. Very different than the LXR, obviously. It's way more like clean kind of FM stuff, but you can get some nice like donks, kick drums. Like, yeah, they did a good job. And also the web editor, I haven't used that much yet, but I just saw John Ruderman just did like promo for them, like with the new stuff in the new web editor. So I'm actually going to try that out just to like make some kits and see.
Yeah, the FM stuff is definitely appealing to me lately. That's kind of been like the root of my drums lately, is FM based plugins and VCV, and also in my rack. Like, I've had both my plates in the FM mode, had my rings in FM mode. I recently got a what is it? ALM, one of the
Chemis?
Would you get a
yes.
Alchemy's
Taco.
Castle? Alchemy's Taco? Oh,
Yes.
that thing's awesome. I want that.
I finally got one. Like, I remember Sean, I was trying to remember what name he uses now, but I guess Sean Dementia is fine.
I think that's, I think that's.
But yeah, that was one of the first modules he got, and he spoke highly of it. And I was like, yeah, it's always kind of caught my eye. Like, so did the Castle, and I always thought, like, maybe I should just get the Alchemy's Castle. But no, I got the little taco joint. That was a out of mind sick purchase.
Right.
Grabbed one,
That's a
used
good
off
one,
Reverb. Yeah, it appeared, and I forgot I even ordered this. And I was like, oh yeah,
love it.
Cool. I fucking love it. Like,
it's awesome.
I know it's an old module at this point, but like, yeah, I feel like I've really been missing the boat on that one.
I went over to Luke's and he had Taiso Daiko and that one, and I fell in love with both of them pretty much immediately and got the Taiso Daiko, and it's still like great. I really like it. It's super cool.
I can tap into what I used to try to do with the BIA a lot. and it seems like it's more versatile.
That's what I think about the Tyso too. I'm like, oh, this is like, I felt bad about the BIA, and then I got that. I'm like, no, this is like super flexible. It's cool.
It's neat, and you can even get like weird kind of like arpeggiations out of it.
Super weird shit.
Things that I didn't expect to do melodic stuff with it, but you definitely can. You know what I mean? Like I just wanted to do like weird wonky FM percussion with it.
Right.
But yeah, you can actually use it as like a synth voice. It's neat. I don't know how else to describe it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I still need to spend more quality time with it, but so far, yeah, I'm like not regretting my purchase at all.
Have you checked the Castle?
I mean, I've looked at the videos for it, and I'm like, yeah, this is awesome and huge, but like I'm not an FM wizard like you, and like it kind of intimidated the shit out of me at the same time. I was like, Dave would probably like this. You know what I mean?
That was one of the ones I was between that and the Humble Quad.
Yeah.
Those were the two that I like. That was the tough decision,
right?
Which one to get, and I ended up going with the Humble Quad. But every once in a while, I'll see like somebody post a video of like them doing something with a Castle, and I'm like,
yeah,
fuck, do I need to get that too?
You might, because I mean the Taco was like one voice of that, and I can't even imagine having 4 with more options too. Like it's probably incredible, you know. But
I love their stuff too. They're just good at making. The more I use Alm stuff, the more I realize they're really good designers.
Same here.
I don't have much of it. Like I have Pam's workout with the expander, which I love. Like it's so fucking versatile. And I have a Tango Quartet. I haven't, and I used to have the Sid Guts Deluxe.
Forgot about that.
That was them, right?
Yeah, that was them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I liked that, but it was kind of one tricky. And at the time, I was trying to like downsize my oscillators, and
having the Sandwich Sid. I'm not getting a Sandwich Sid or a MIDI box in a module in it. I was a little disappointed with it. That said, it still sounds fucking incredible. It's a really interesting module. It's
pricey. You can still get it at Analog Haven, and it's like $360 without the SID chip too.
Yeah.
You got to bring your own.
And similarly, I don't have that many. I also have a Tango Quartet, and I have their little envelope, the PIP.
Slope. Oh, you got the PIP slope. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like for a tiny little 4 HP envelope. Again, I think they've got a good sense of what makes a good module.
I'm really curious about their newer-ish multi-effects module.
MFX.
Yeah.
They just updated it too with the company I work for, their parent company, put out new ADAC or ADDA chips, and they put them in that. And that was the way they were able to make. They couldn't get those. They revved it and did new ones. So now they can make MFXs again. They have like better headroom now, the newer ones too.
I'm real curious about it. I just haven't had a chance to like pull the trigger on it.
Right. And you finally joined the FX Aid Brigade.
It hasn't arrived yet, but yeah, I have one coming from Signal Sounds finally.
And you got the Pro.
I got the Pro.
That's the one. Yeah.
I was real close to rebuying a ZDSP because I've been missing my Halls of Valhalla. But I was like, no, I've used that to death. I should try something different.
You'll like this, I think.
I hope so. Will it replace Halls for me? I don't know. Like I've been back to using the VSTs, like the I can't remember because there's so many of them, but like the Valhalla
Shimmer, Delay,
the Plate,
Cathedral one,
Valhalla Room.
That's the one I've been using the most. Yeah, is Valhalla
the weird
Room. Names.
Those aren't in the plugin though. Those were just in the ZDSP cart, like the Niflheim or
yeah. But I'm pretty sure the algorithms on the ZDSP cart were from Valhalla Room. I love those algorithms on that cart. But I've used them to death like over the last few years, and it's like, okay, time to switch it up a little bit. I really wanted just a reverb that had more to offer, like as far as control goes. Like, you only get 3 parameters on pretty much any of these effects modules. The ZDSP, you have like 3. Yeah. The FX Aid, you have 3.
Yeah.
I think this new ALM one, I think you have 3.
I mean, unless you're going into like the Strymon territory, you're
Chaos
not going to
devices. I think you have
3. Yeah, you have 3.
So like I was kind of annoyed by that, and like I spent a lot of time the other night just like researching effects pedals, and I was real close to pulling the trigger on an Empress Reverb.
Yeah.
And just being like, fuck modules altogether. None of these offer the amount of features that I want. But the Empress, you get a lot of options, but like you can't CV them. You know what I mean? So I was like, do I really want to?
There are CV. There's the weird Empress that is
the Euro Burrow or whatever.
Yeah, the one that's like Euro friendly,
or the Zoya or something.
Something like that. But it has CV, and I think you can even rack it. I think you can take it out of its enclosure and rack it.
Those just looked like a fucking mess to me.
They look like
I was not. Yeah, the interface is like nah.
No, that's like the Ben Jordan did that one video, and I've looked at a couple of other videos, and I'm like, sonically, this isn't bad. Usability though, I don't. It's not for me.
If I could just get a Empress Reverb as a module, I would buy it immediately. Without hesitation.
I would get the delay too immediately.
And and the delay. Absolutely.
I want the delay kind of right now, but I'm not gonna do it. I just want it for the show, and it's just like it's stupid.
They're not that expensive. You know, like I was looking at the delays too when I was looking at the Reverb. For some reason on Reverb, when I was searching Empress Reverb, the delays were in the search results too. So I was like just eyeballing those and comparing prices. But
I think it's like $4.99 list, but you can get it for like closer to $4.
But yeah, overall, I was just kind of frustrated at the lack of good reverb options. You know, I had the Starlab for a minute, and that did have some good CV control, but like at the same time, you only have 3 different algorithms on that, which aren't even like algorithms. It's like 3 different spaces. It's like kind of super limited, and everything that comes out of Starlab kind of sounds the same. It's like you're just doing slightly different takes of the same sound, you know?
That is the nice thing about the FX8 though, is because there's so many different algorithms and they're based on these different models, and especially with you getting the Pro and having just go give me all of them. Again, you're right. It's only 3 CV inputs, but 3's been fine.
Yeah.
That's not really been a huge limitation to me. I'm also used to the ZDSP having a similar sort of like, here are the 3 they gave you. Now do your work. The other thing about FX8, this is a segue, Greg. I'm lobbing this up for you. Is they've got a model of the Generation Lost. Wait, is that right?
Yeah.
Generation Lost pedal. Generation Loss pedal.
Yeah.
That, as I do not have one of those, I've been super fucking stoked on. It just being able to have that. I think it sounds amazing. It's not exactly like a pedal. I don't know anyone who has that pedal.
Yeah.
So I've never, I'm not experienced. Greg.
Wait, what's this?
Oh shit! Do you know someone who has that pedal, Greg?
What's this sitting here on the table? Look
Plot
at
twist.
that.
It's plot twist.
It's a Generation Loss.
This is the most dip switches I've ever seen on that pedal.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what Chase Bliss is known for. Is like their weird dip switch system. You know?
Yeah. So, Greg, tell the listeners what it is that I expertly set up for you to talk about.
Well, first, let's take a step back, Dave. Let's go into the history a little bit.
Let's go for
about Generation Loss. Let me pull up my notes for this one.
Is this going to be just from their Wikipedia page, but is this also going to be a personal
No, this
journey?
is my personal journey.
Okay. I'm excited.
I decided to try to explain this a bit because I was trying to explain it to my cousin because I told him like the new Generation Loss Mark II is out. I told him I got one. And I was like, you'd probably be interested in this because he likes the lo-fi stuff.
Right. This is the aforementioned Cyrus, or Cy, that we talked about in the previous episode. Yes. He's going to be a recurring character, I think.
And he hopped on Reverb, and he started sending me links to older versions. And he was like, this is it, and it's not that expensive. I was like, no, that's the wrong version. And he was like, it says version 2. I said, correct, that's the wrong version 2.
Yeah.
And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I had to explain to him, because it can be confusing.
Yeah,
it is.
Overall, there are 4 different iterations of the Generation Loss pedal. It started out as a Cooper Effects pedal. It was just Cooper Effects Generation Loss. That was version 1. Then they paired up with...
Wait, real quick. Yes. What year was that? Like, how far back are we going?
I didn't do time frames.
Is it roughly the 80s, 90s?
No.
Yeah.
This was all roughly over like the last decade.
Yeah,
okay.
Like probably 10 years ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, Cooper Effects made Generation Loss. It was more or less what you see here, minus dip switches and all that jazz. So generation loss was successful. So Chase Bliss hit them up, and they're like, let's do a collaboration. We'll do a version of this pedal. We'll add some dip switches. We'll add some other options. That was just called the Chase Bliss / Cooper Effects Generation Loss. But you can think of that as like Mark II.
Right, that makes sense.
Or version 2.
Right.
So that was the big one for a while. Like that was the one that I had. It was super rare, hard to get. Price was like insane on Reverb. Like some of them were selling for $2,000.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I'll get to that later. But yeah, it was like unobtainium for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So then Cooper Effects decided he was going to do a follow-up to the original. And this was the Cooper Effects Generation Loss version 2.
Mm-hmm.
But in actuality, you can consider this version 3. So there's kind of like a Fast and Furious thing going on here.
They're not actually in order.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to be a fan, to understand the actual order of things.
Oh, wait. Do we want to segue into me talking about Fast and the Furious for a half hour? I can do that. All right. We'll table that for now.
It's like family, Dave. So, yeah, he created a sequel to the solo version. And then Cooper Effects ceased to exist. He put that out. That was like the last pedal Cooper Effects released. There wasn't too many of them. And he just said, I'm no longer releasing stuff. I'm done. And he instead got hired by Chase Bliss. So he now is an engineer for Chase Bliss, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah.
And
understanding.
Lo and behold, this is now the sequel to the collab, but you can't really consider it a collaboration.
So this is 4?
Because he's been assimilated into Chase Bliss.
Right.
So yes, this is version 4 that is sitting in front of me. Just came out last week, started shipping. This is from the first batch. Super excited to have
real
it.
quick, it's just Chase Bliss at this point? There's no
Just Chase
Cooper
Bliss
is not...
Right.
Okay.
There's no Cooper on this name because he is in the fold of
He's
Chase
now
Bliss.
Parts of, okay,
Yes.
gotcha. That is very confusing.
And they finally made a fucking stereo pedal.
They made it fucking stereo. Yes. Oddly enough, when I was talking about like looking at reverbs and shit, the Chase Bliss Dark World, super fucking appealing to me. I was like, this is like the perfect reverb pedal that I've been looking for. You can run 2 different reverbs in parallel, and they're meant to be like on the darker side. Yeah, and you can adjust like the serial parallel processing of it and all that shit.
Cool.
Fucking amazing looking little pedal, only in mono.
Right.
And I was like, fuck you. Like, so I'm hoping, because they did this new generation loss in stereo, that means we'll have more stereo pedals in the future.
That would be great, because I don't buy any of theirs because they're mono.
Right. Yeah, I would love a stereo Dark World. So if anyone out there is listening that is affiliated with Chase Bliss at all, make that your next thing, please. I think it would
Pull some
sell like
strings.
fucking hotcakes.
Yeah.
Or even yet, make a module of it, but that might be asking too much. If you're going to stick to the pedal format, please do more stereo
Well, shoot
shit.
for the sky, Greg. You're asking for things. Like,
Yeah.
Start high,
Yeah.
bid high.
Yeah.
So real quick, before we get too much further into this,
Yes.
this is a unique effect. Can you explain to our listeners who may not be familiar with it, what does it do? Because it's probably doesn't fall into a lot of categories that are easily describable.
Yeah.
Sure. Chase Bliss describes it as a study of tape in all its forms.
That checks out, yeah.
I describe it as Boards of Canada in a box.
Both of those check out, yeah.
Yeah. It's meant to emulate that lo-fi vibe of tape degradation. Not necessarily just saturation, although that's a part of it, but the sound you get like when you record upon a recording, you know what I mean? Also the flutter and the hiss and the noise and all that jazz.
But to be clear, unlike something like a Space Echo, there's no tape in this. There's no physical tape.
There's no tape in this.
In
There's
it.
no delay in this. It's not a tape delay, which is usually what you go to commonly if you're trying to achieve that, or a tape deck, or something. But yeah.
But this is all emulation of tape without tape.
Yes, and primarily it was meant to emulate VHS.
Okay.
Like all 4 versions were kind of aimed at that. Like the previous versions, there was only one tape model that it worked with. You know what I mean? It was just, you just had one vibe, and you could adjust the filtering, you could adjust the hiss, things like that, the warble, but it was all like one model that it was emulating. This is the first one that adds a model knob that you can scroll through tons of different emulations.
Ooh, that's cool.
That is cool.
And I can read them off to you because I have the nice little manual here.
It is a beautiful box. Like the design of this whole thing is fucking amazing.
Is that manual? Oh,
yeah, it's nice, dude. It's got all these little.
That is.
And you
really
got a
well
pin
done.
too, didn't you?
And
An pin.
sweet little pin. Yeah. So they do a condensed version of the models. I'll run through that first. So there's 12 in total. Well, actually 13 because there's an off mode, which just puts you in what's called classic mode, which is the same as the previous versions.
Oh, okay.
So you can dip into classic mode, and when you're in classic mode, the failure knob becomes the high pass, the model knob becomes the low pass.
Right.
Like on
This
the
is like on
previous
Parasites, you got
iteration.
that clouds mode.
Yeah, there is some hidden shit in here too, depending on like if you hold down both. I won't dip into all that shit.
Wow.
But it can get deep, and then on top of that, you have all the dip switches and shit.
Right,
too.
right.
But
So you're talking about hidden modes outside of just the dip switch
yes,
combinations.
Yes,
Fuck.
Modes
pretty
within
deep for a pedal.
modes.
Yeah, this is. It's also really enticing, like just as its own little mystery.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the previous one, but I had like extreme. I don't want to say buyer's remorse, because I didn't regret buying it. I loved it. It's probably was my favorite pedal ever. But like, I paid a premium to get it when I did purchase it, because like I said, it was like impossible to get.
Right.
And like knowing that I paid that much for a pedal just always kind of weighed on me.
It puts a different pressure on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For just a one trick type of effect that I wasn't using in my recording all that much. I just loved to play with it.
Right.
You know, I think I spent like $1,000 on that pedal, which was like nearly 3 times the retail. And I was like, yeesh. And that was the cheapest one on Reverb for weeks. Like all the other ones were around 13, 15, 1800 and shit. So yeah.
So there's almost like a cult following around this pedal.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, like ever since the Chase Bliss version, they just sell out before they're even like, you know, available. Like you won't find them at retailers because they're just gone immediately, directly.
So real quick, I mean, we talked before the recording about how as a synthesizer tool, this is ideal. Do people use this with guitars? Is this big with like indie rockers and guitar players?
I don't pay attention to the guitar.
Okay,
world.
I didn't know if that was like who was driving up the price of this.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was. I think they finally understand their market with this pedal. You know, like it was for guitarists, and guitarists definitely used it. Most of the demos you find on YouTube are guitarists, but with the Chase Bliss collaboration version, Mark II, I'll say, or version 2, like it started to get scooped up by synth people.
Gotcha.
You know, who were trying to do that lo-fi vibe. In fact, they even collaborated with, I think, like, what's his name?
Andrew Huang?
Blank MS, I think is his name.
Wait, Blank Mass? From like Sacred Bones?
Blank 4.ms. He's the dude that does like all the lo-fi vibe stuff on there. Also Amulets. There was a model designed by Amulets. There was a model designed by Marcus Fisher. So
Toby Keith.
Yeah, Toby Keith model.
BT.
Yeezy model.
Ooh.
No. So yeah, I love the pedal, but like the price weighed on me too much. So eventually I sold it for what I paid for it, made my money back. And I always, in the back of my mind, I was like, if I could ever get one again for a reasonable price, I would jump on it. And I was able to do it with this. So like, I'm super excited.
So wait, I distracted you tremendously.
The
You were about to read off the different models.
different the short version of it is models 1 through 3 are VHS emulations. Models 4 through 5, Porta Studio. Model 6, camcorder. Models 7 through 8, dictaphone. Model 9, toy. Model 10, Walkman. Model 11 is just called broken, and then Model 12, reel to reel. And they give more in-depth explanations as to the these. Like Model 1, for example, is a CPR-3300 Gen 1 type VHS tape.
Wow, that's very specific.
Yeah. Model 4, for example, is a Portamax RT cassette tape. Model 9, Fishy-60 cassette. You know, like just all this weird shit, man.
So even before we've heard any of this, that level of detail and that level of sort of just nerd deep dive is incredibly awesome.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because like I just love lo-fi saturated, textures.
Yeah.
You know, and I used to, for some of the Prometheus shit, I used to try to do the like record to VHS thing. I never was able to create really great results with it, probably because I was using like a clean tape.
Right.
I learned over time that like you kind of need a fucked up tape.
You need to go like full William Basinski, like disintegration tapes.
The ones I've had in my attic for 11 years now that have gone through drastic temperature changes.
That is what, so like back when I was doing like the Prometheus stuff, there wasn't that much information out there about it. It was just like a vague post here and there, like some people saying, oh yeah, I record shit to VHS over and over, and that makes a neat saturation, and I would fuck around with that. There's a lot more information out there now about like lo-fi recording and saturation and how to do degraded sounds. And one of the things is like leave your tape in the sun or go through some temperature changes, shit like that I didn't know. So like my results always varied. It was kind of shitty. I would even record shit to my it's not a Walkman, but I guess it could be.
But there is a difference between cassette tapes and VHS tapes as far as even just the mechanism for extracting data from them.
I like all of it.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why this pedal's so appealing to me now, because like it's trying to encompass all of it.
Which is amazing.
Pretty ambitious. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, aside from the new model select, it also has a dedicated saturate knob, which works differently per model. Like on the classic mode, that was more of like a sample reduction, which was kind of cool. I always kept it around like 12%, you know what I mean? But now like it's a bona fide like saturation depending on the model, and I fucking love it already.
So something's already blowing my mind. The model is a knob that you can just sort of like sweep through,
shift through all of those different models.
That's not what I was expecting. Honestly, I thought the model was going to be driven by the dip switches in the back.
It can be. Fucking with the switches, you can adjust what's called the ramp, which is an onboard LFO that you can assign to that knob and have it shift through models.
I was wondering what that was on the box, because it's like kind of a waveform.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's how you assign the CV input.
I haven't even looked into the CV capabilities of it, or like the fucking, the like the pedal. I don't know what that can do yet.
I had sort of coming into this recording like a little bit of a preconception of like what generation loss was, and this is like 10 times more than that. And you haven't even gone through all the 6 knobs yet, or the switches. So what's everything do here? Yeah.
So like most of it is the same that you'll find on the previous models. Like you have your auxiliary mode, which just assigns what happens when you push this auxiliary switch. You can have it do like tape stops. You can have it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you can have it max out the failure knob up here, like. So you can have that low and then hit it, and it'll just like blast it to max. You know what I mean? So it'll just be full on failure mode. And you can have it just kind of bypass all the effects. It's just called filter mode, where it'll just be like clean. It'll still be going through the processor, but like
you're not getting the tape effect.
Yeah.
You're just getting the filter effect. Yeah.
The second knob, it's just called the dry knob. You adjust how much of dry signal you want to come through. So you can have it none, or because there's no wet dry knob.
Right. So this is, so if you turn dry all the way off, you're just getting like weird tape noise.
Yes.
Kind of like almost a dual looping delay, where you can like feed the delay.
Better, like. Or you can have it at like unity gain. So at that point, all the tape stuff is kind of like functioning as like a chorus. You know.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's neat. And that's especially neat because this one has the stereo, and one of the dip switches in the back can make it do different things in stereo. Basically, you can have left-right channels being processed by the tape shit differently. So you like the left is kind of warbling different than the right. You got different amounts of like hiss between your left and your right.
So real quick, how do you set that up? Like what you described sounds amazingly powerful.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused how you do that with this.
These dip switches back here,
Okay.
The ones that are in dark blue, if you flip it upside down, it says customize.
Yeah, yeah.
So that adjusts different characteristics of this stuff.
So to the viewers, I'm looking at like probably 16 dip switches on the back here.
What's the USB for?
I have no idea what the USB is for. Maybe they're going to offer like firmware updates in the future or something.
Maybe.
Like none of the previous versions had a USB port that I can recall. So I have no idea.
It is one of the sexiest pieces of gear I've ever seen.
Yeah, this is wild.
Dude, like when I had the previous one, like even if I didn't know how much I had paid for it, like holding it in my hand, I was just like, this is an awesome piece of gear. You know what I mean? And this one even more so. And
oh, but you were saying the dip switches, like that's how you configure
the other things you can configure on the dip switch is like, for example, this one hum bypass. There's like a hum that is built into the failure.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
You can bypass it. You know what I mean?
Cool.
Like the more you turn it up, the more like you get with that. There's also drop bypass. Like it can do things where the audio just kind of drops out for like, at random. You can bypass that. I usually bypass that. I feel like that's too much having it just cut out at random personally. But yeah, so you got your flutter, your wow, which is a staple on. Oh, I'm sorry. There was one more knob or switch rather, and that's the noise switch. You have none, mild, and heavy, and that just brings in the tape hiss noise and things like that.
Wow, that's a lot of variation.
There's
all
a
those
lot
models,
going on here.
all the switches, like that's a lot.
And like I was saying, some of the parameters differ per model too. Like the saturation, for example, will be different styles of tape saturation or degradation depending on the model you select.
And I know you've only had this for 48 hours, you said, but it's responsive to you jamming on these knobs, like going to town on these knobs.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's
I was up till
everything's
the
real time.
sun came up last night, kind of playing around with it. Like my personal favorite thing to do with it was just to always run, not necessarily pads, but atmospheric texture, you know? And the fact that you can do that in stereo now, I think is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And clearly they're not just catering to guitar players anymore. Like they know that people that have synths want to play with this thing.
So how did you get that? Were you early on the pre-orders?
I was not. I missed out on the pre-order, as did a lot of people. Most people that tried to do the pre-order, it sold out within 10 minutes.
Damn.
Like a lot of people were in the PayPal checkout, and then all of a sudden, bloop, none available.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I got very fortunate. I saw a gentleman on Mod Wiggler post up that he was backing out of his pre-order. I caught him within like a few minutes of posting it, and I was like, hey, I will gladly take that off your hands. I would have even paid slightly more than retail, but he was literally just asking retail, like $400, what he paid for it. And
fucking awesome.
I was like, you're a fucking dude, man.
Yeah,
like,
seriously.
That is awesome.
Did you send him some stickers and a koozie?
I've been so bad at that too. I haven't sent anyone stickers.
You should send some stickers and a koozie.
So much shit over the last 2-3 months because I was just kind of like cycling what I wanted in my rig, and I forgot to include anything extra, and I feel like an asshole.
Same here.
I had a 50% success rate of remembering to do that.
It's better than us.
Yeah, so I got rid of like 10 stickers that way.
So anyone that purchased something off me recently, I apologize. I will mail you stickers if you want stickers.
Yeah,
whatever I can cram into an envelope.
Tasteful nudes.
Yeah, and some tasteful nudes.
No panties.
But yeah, and I was nervous about doing that. I've never purchased a pre-order from someone before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so how does this work? And he said like Chase Bliss is really good at like changing the information on the order. And he sent me screenshots. He was like, here's me requesting them to change the pre-order to your address. He's like, any email notifications will still come to me, but I'll relay them to you.
So is this like the first time you bought a video game entirely digital? You're like, I don't have a CD. I don't have a booklet. Like,
what's this Steam platform?
Exactly. Like you're just like your mind is blown at technology's advancement into the digital realm.
Yeah, it was kind of nebulous, you know what I mean? To purchase nothing but other than someone's word that they will have this go
give
to you.
Give you their place in a virtual line is a really weird thing to sell. But
I went for it.
Yeah, it paid off.
Took the leap. Yeah, and it was within the first batch.
So these are unobtainium right now.
There's a few that are already up on Reverb. Like most people received them the same day as I did, which was 2 days ago. There's a few on Reverb right now that are going for around $700, which is
that's like flipper price.
Yeah.
Almost double than retail.
Flipper price,
yeah, absolutely. There's no one just selling it for retail right now.
Right.
Everyone's trying to flip.
Right.
Which is unfortunate because that just goes to show that there are a lot of people clogging up those pre-orders whose sole intention is just to fucking flip.
It's like we were talking about last episode.
I was going to say, we already railed against them.
The same thing's happening with the Square Hapax too. Every one up there is like $400 to $600 over retail price. And it's like,
which is a bummer.
Solid, guys.
Yeah, this is a huge bummer because
maybe not like $200 to $600.
There are definitely people out there that this is like a game changer for their setup.
Mm-hmm. It's unique.
Yeah.
But it's okay, I think, at this point. If you want one, you can get one at retail. You're just going to have to really pay attention to when the pre-orders open up again, you know what I mean, and get involved in those batches. Because it's not like a limited run. It's just that there's a lot of demand, and you got a lot of these flippers that are scooping them up. So you got to kind of compete.
So to deviate once again, I'm sorry, I've been nothing but a distraction this whole time, but I'm more fired up about this than I thought I was going to be. You said you've been experimenting with it for the last couple of nights. What have you been doing with it?
Only last night. I was just running basic shit through it, just trying to compare it to the classic mode. Originally, I was trying to dial in the classic mode. They say it's the same as classic mode, but I think because it's in stereo, it sounded a little different to my ears, and so did the filter. I'm curious if I could get any specifics somewhere online. I haven't found any, but I feel like the filter is different. One of my favorite things about the previous Chase Bliss version was the filter. It was just very, I don't know how to explain it. It was just perfect to me. Like for what it was meant to do, it was the perfect filter.
Yeah.
This one doesn't sound quite as resonant. I think, I haven't dipped too much into it. I think in the hidden modes, I can adjust the filter maybe.
You went over the 6 knobs and none of them were filter cutoff or resonant or Q value.
That only exists in classic mode.
Gotcha. Okay.
The failure knob becomes high pass again, and this model mode becomes low pass again. If you look underneath the text, you'll see LP HP.
Oh yeah.
That signifies what is available in classic mode.
Gotcha.
When the model mode is off, meaning all the way counterclockwise.
So it's like a fixed resonance level.
Yes. Yeah. And I always liked where it was. Like, it was pretty resonant, definitely not transparent filter, in the previous version. It was pretty
upfront,
but I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, there was some times where I'd run things through it and just used it as a filter, more or less. And, just to add a little bit of hiss and filtering, and real subtle. And that was nice. The filter does sound a little different to me.
So real quick, there's a switch that's between the two stomp
presets.
Ooh, there's presets.
Yeah.
Do you set them or do they come on board? Okay. How do you make a preset?
I forget because I never really did it.
But it's available.
It is available.
You have a concept of what the presets are?
Yeah. I mean, the controls were so basic on the previous versions. I never really felt the need to save anything. I would just feel it out, dial it in, But now, because you have so many different options and models, I can definitely see utilizing the preset system more.
That USB is MIDI.
Oh, is it?
Oh.
It says MIDI capable on the side. And I was thinking,
I don't fuck with no MIDI.
Yeah.
More interested in the CV input. That's weird, though, because this is also a MIDI input.
Oh, maybe that is the MIDI. Maybe the USB is something else. Weird.
Wait, there's a separate 1/4-inch MIDI?
Yeah, MIDI and aux.
Oh. Fucking hell. This thing's a monster. I'm
it
really
really
blown
is.
away.
It's very impressive.
And you're, they've made a lot of them already. You're 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I don't want to blow up your number here, but you're in the 800s here.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I think they plan on making a lot of these. Yeah. So the other ones were kind of limited because I guess I don't think they ever expected them to become as popular as they did, and like.
There's a difference between like manufactured scarcity and, oh shit, we made what we thought was going to be enough and turned out to not be enough. That's a huge spectrum there. Yeah.
Yep.
It seems like they're trying to keep up with orders this time around.
Which is really
it's like
cool.
They realize they have a hit on their hands here, and they're trying to, accommodate the demand.
I assume the lo-fi beats to study to YouTube scene is about to explode.
Yes.
And absolutely. Given that I don't necessarily expect you to do that, how do you typically use this?
Oh yeah, you did ask me that before. Sorry, I got sidetracked.
Probably by me, because I've been asking a lot of questions.
Mainly background textures.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like and just to process drums through. Like I love the sound when it gets a little dirty and degraded, you know, beyond just distortion. Like it's so easy to turn drums into gabber, you know, when you're applying distortions. But
you mean the perfect form. But
right.
Go on.
But like, you know, that's not what I'm always looking for. Or even if I am looking for, sometimes I want to add extra character to the gabber kick. You know what I mean? Like I want to add, especially with digital sounds like FM drums, they can be so in your fucking face, you know. But once you start applying like tape saturation and degradation sounds and pitch warbles and hisses and shit like that, it starts to make things that you can gel with other sounds easier. You know what I mean?
Because a lot of that distortion for like a gabber, like a classic gabber kick, it's full spectrum. It's it's upfront. It's sort of man spreading across your frequency spectrum.
Exactly.
Like to have something that kind of goes like, you still have that gabber kick, but it's actually kind of like playing nicely with others.
Right. I like to bury sounds in the mix. You know what I mean? I always have. Like I'm not one to allow space often in my mixes, you know.
Which I'm sure has been a nightmare for all the people that have mastered your tracks over the years. Yeah.
Like I like to have things buried, and like one of the most ear-pleasing ways to bury sounds is tape degradation style sound. You know what I mean? Either through real tape or emulation like this. And also when it comes to atmospherics, same situation. I like to be able to create texture. That's one thing, kind of why I like granulizing things so much too, because you can create like a nice texture out of something that was a stable sound. Now is like got more texture to it, for lack of a better term. And that's why I like my shitty reverbs. Same situation. It's all the same situation. I like to make shit dirty and kind of like able to fit in the background and fill the spaces, you know, like nicely. And this is just another method of achieving that, in my opinion, you know. And it's especially good when you combine it with like a shitty reverb.
Right.
You know what I mean? Things like that.
So wait, as a self-proclaimed dirty boy, can you imagine getting more of these? I mean, obviously, this is probably something you're not going to get rid of anytime soon. Do you see a use out of having multiples of them?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Like it's the type of thing where like you just, you know, one track it out.
Fair enough.
Just submix it, go through it, and then you're done. It's not the type of thing where I really need to have like multiples of to have like more hands-on control, or like I'm not going to be performing with like running everything through it. It's the type of thing that I would record something through, just similar to tape. You know what I mean? I use it just like a reel-to-reel, except without all the hassles of fucking around with a reel-to-reel. Just bounce out the submix through it, add some texture, dial it into taste, basically.
As someone with a reel-to-reel that they rarely use because of what a pain in the ass it is.
Right.
It's cool. Like using it is amazing, but
it's definitely easier than a VHS too. Like
it's really, both of those are really inconvenient mediums.
They really are, and this makes it way more convenient. And there's a lot of shit out there that, I mean, the concept isn't new.
Right.
I think ever since like the first Boards of Canada album, there's been a cult following of people trying to emulate that type of sound degradation through plugins, pedals, other gear. Most of it doesn't nail it though.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I've always felt like this kind of does. I don't know how they did it.
Well, you have that book to read.
It is a wonderful little manual. I'm super happy it came with it.
It's also substantial. I mean, there's a lot of data in there. They're not fucking around.
No, I mean, it goes into like, you know, like just discussing like models and all that shit. Like for someone who like might be completely new to like the concept.
So Greg.
Yeah.
So ultimately you're a fan of this pedal.
I am. I feel like it's the complete version of it. I can't think of anything else that they could do to add to it at this point. I mean, from the start, I was always wanting stereo, and now it's there.
Yeah.
And I didn't ask for it, but I'm glad it exists. The Saturate circuit is fucking phenomenal.
Oh, nice.
Having a lot of fun messing with that yesterday. In fact, I can see myself using this just as a saturation pedal from time to time now. there's a neat little tidbit in the manual about the saturation. It says the saturate and the model are interactive. The tape models come after saturation in the signal flow, molding and filtering the distortion. So each model will exaggerate certain parts of the saturation while suppressing others. So that's kind of cool in the flow. So it's kind of like you're overdriving the input of a tape deck, which is
that's fucking awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. And they use a term that I'm not familiar with, and I thought I knew a lot about distortion and saturation, but they say the type of saturation that occurs on a tape recorder is called magnetic hysteresis loop. It hits the magnetic structure of the tape and essentially shifts and alters any future sounds that are recorded. And you don't have to actually fuck with tape, which is, as we've established, a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it 100% accurate? Fuck no.
Yeah.
But it comes pretty damn close.
Yeah.
It's pretty convenient.
Seems like it has its own thing going on too. That always goes a long way too. Like being able to change those modes in real time and shit. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's the type of effect that goes beyond just being an effect. It becomes an instrument, you know? And that's how I felt about the previous one, and this one even way more so.
Right.
With all the different models and such.
But I mean, I think you make a good point though. It's now more than the sum of its constituent modes. Being able to sweep between them and integrate those and have them mix between them. Like, trying to set up 12 DCRs and reel-to-reel and tape.
Right.
And trying to do what this is doing in that pedal.
Dunking a tape in a toilet.
Yes.
I
mean, not to say it couldn't be done.
Right.
It's just impractical.
Yeah.
This is a better solution for that.
Big fan of it. Super happy to have one. Looking forward to spending more quality time with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
What about you? What's next on your list there?
My big thing, it's not even that big because it's a quality of life improvement. I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. I pre-ordered the Deluge OLED update. Upgrade. I've talked about this forever. I clearly stand for Deluge all the time. But the display is garbage. Like, it's comically bad. It's four characters. Yeah,
like 8 segment, 4 characters, right?
Yeah, it's and it scrolls if it's more than that, but I now accommodate the 4 characters by all of everything I save is with 4 characters. It always worked, especially when I was like, okay, cool, I'll just make everything 4 characters long. It's a pretty huge limitation.
Yeah.
Like going to a parameter and just getting here's the parameter and it spits out a 4 character representation of it, and then the value was never ideal. It's a very hard way to work.
And I think they even originally said at the outset, they wanted you to not look at screens when they made it, which is why they even did the clever stuff with waveform display on the pads and all those brilliant workarounds.
But even in this new update, the sort of dovetail off of that, they said that the Deluge has gone way beyond what they intended it for be. That first version, what they first envisioned for it, is not what they have now. It's evolved in this way that is just totally different. And they still have fundamental principles as how they want it to be used, and and those haven't changed. But basically, the 4 character display started to become a limitation, and you certainly don't have to do it. But they have to do this upgrade because apparently it's more complicated, and it makes sense.
You have to send it in?
I have to send it in. Yeah.
I was wondering how that would work. I was like, wow, you just swap it out or what? But
I wish I could just do it myself.
Yeah.
Sure.
But they're not offering that as a thing. And it makes sense because it's going to be a lot of people that fuck it up, break their Deluge, and then they've got another nightmare trying to fix it. So
Electron never did the plus drive when you could upgrade those things. You had to ship it back.
And I honestly think this is a good time to do it. Not I'm getting a lot of shows, but summer's over. Realistically, shows are going to start dwindling. Fucking spend your winter, maybe a week or 2 without it. And they even said they're going to try to minimize just how long it's away. They're going to let you know, pack it up, get ready. You send that off, and they send it back as fast as possible. And you don't have to do it. There's basically forked firmwares with OLED and without. Functionality is basically unchanged, but now whenever you go to a parameter, it's sort of in bold at the top of this OLED. Values either scroll kind of like what you had already, but you could actually fucking read the entire thing. Or if it's something with a numeric parameter, you get a little bar that shows you the value.
Yeah.
If you can afford it and you can afford to have it away for a week or two, it makes total sense. Also, everything they're making from here on out will just include it already. Like
That
it's
makes
part
sense.
of the base model now, which is every couple of months just raises more in price.
Yeah, which is cool that they were super transparent about that. Though.
Absolutely.
They're like, here's our plan for price raises over time.
And they explained they've been very forthcoming about why they had to do it. And also, I'm glad I got mine when I did, but it would be very hard to justify getting one now, just because, or not justify.
Yeah, they're a lot pricier.
They're pretty expensive now.
Are they?
Yeah, they're like just from them, I think it's like $1,200 or $1,300.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got mine for like $700.
I was say, weren't they between 6 to 8?
Yeah, they were really cheap.
I think they were like 8 new, and now they're going to be like 1,500 new or something like that.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
But it does a lot more now too. I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Like the cost of everything. So much respect for them even doing a retrofit, not just being like, "Here's a Mark II, like buy the new one if you want it."
Absolutely, 100% agreed. Like,
because that's not easy to figure out in itself.
No, and they even had when they tried to do the first sort of offering of it, the website crashed. Like basically, there was a lot. They didn't
a lot
expect,
of demand there. Then.
Yeah, they did not expect that. Like there was a flood of people trying to get this work done. They went back and said, "Yeah, we fucked up. I'm sorry." Came up with a new approach for it that worked. If you pre-order by this date, you're in line. You got a guarantee. We'll figure it out from there. So, the fact that they did this, fucked it up, immediately corrected it. I mean, that's. Yeah, I've nothing but love for Synth Strom and what they do.
Yeah,
cool.
So that's my big thing, and I will be more excited to show everyone when I get this done.
Did you already send it in?
No, I just did the pre-order. The
okay.
It's starting in November, and I think it's probably first come first serve. But basically, they'll email you, "Hey, you're up to bat. Get your shit ready. Send it on this date." And hopefully, and by then too, I don't think I was one of the early ones. So by the time they come to me, I assume they will even refine the process even more. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm very stoked for it. Again, this is like the centerpiece of everything I do. Every track is starts, begins, ends, edit. Like
even in the studio, not
absolutely.
just live stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, because it's got MIDI and CV and samples, its own synth engine. Like I now think in those terms when I start.
Right.
That's cool because I remember when you were going to buy one, that was kind of your goal.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted something to kind of be the heart of your setup. I didn't realize you achieved it with that. I thought it was more like something you used for live stuff. Didn't realize like in the studio.
And I do that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a separate set of live setups, live presets set up in just a different workflow that works for live, but also at home, completely different and switches context to track making and composition seamlessly, all in the same box.
Neat.
Yeah.
Huge fan.
With the exception of the sound generation, reminds me a lot of the Score Papax, which I just finally got to after waiting for half of a year.
Yeah.
So wait, the delay was supply chain, or was there something else that caused
supply chain?
Okay.
Yeah, because I ordered in like April, and even at that time they were like, "This is the June batch," and then June rolled around, and they were like, "End of July." And then something actually with the panels, like they had an issue. They came back with defects, and they were like, "No, we're gonna like redo these panels, and it's gonna be September." And I got mine like right at the top of September, and it is God tier greatest sequencer I've ever used.
Yeah.
I couldn't. It's the same way you're talking about the Deluge. Like it's the center of sequencing for me now, and like I can't imagine that ever changing.
You've been a fan of some of the other Scorp stuff in the past.
I had 3 pyramids. At one point I had 2 just to have a backup for a live show I was playing. And even the last time I sold it, I was using the Westlick Performer a lot more, and that's kind of why I sold it, but always missed some of the immediacy of the pyramid and some of the effects and things it can do. And it's like having the Hapax is like them fixing every problem I could have ever had with the pyramid, adding a ton more stuff, adding beautiful like isomorphic keyboard grids. It's made me realize like I love isomorphic keyboards.
So this is a fundamentally different product. This isn't just like a Mark II of the Pyramid. This is a fundamentally different product.
It's fundamentally different. The Pyramid just had like kind of two sets of 8 steps you could use as a keyboard. It was really elegant. It was nice. Again, has no velocity on any of the pads, which is actually just fine. This has like, I forget how many, but 8 by 16 or 12 by 16 button grid, very similar in size to the Deluge actually. So it's that nice full thing you can see by color, like every MIDI note. Nice, like it couldn't be. It's the nicest thing I've ever had for sequencing by a long shot.
And it's MIDI and CV. Like what are all the ins and outs?
CV. It's got it's 2 MIDI ins, one of them small 1/8" format, and you can toggle A or B type by software, which is awesome and more people should do. It's got like 3 MIDI outs or 4, and then another 1/8" MIDI out.
Damn.
It's got 6 CV gate outs, I think, a couple pairs of those. You know, my friend Luke has tested it a lot more than I have, but the timing on it is like ridiculous. It's like microseconds delay, like if you use the USB. One of the cool things is it has USB device and USB host support. So the really cool thing that I've done and a lot of people have done is hooking it up to the Expert Sleeper's FH2 MIDI to CV interface, because it's like microseconds latency from the device to the thing. The timing is the best MIDI timing ever seen on a device that wasn't just generating MIDI from audio pulses. So it's like incredibly tight. There's actually a bug with it right now that we're kind of working with Squarp on, because the connection to the MIDI interface will drop notes sometimes, even though like you can do it over Ableton. And it's actually because of how high speed it is, it causes problems. Like there's even a setting. This also has a web interface, like you were mentioning before, to like set up this FH2. I know I've shifted to the FH2 a little bit here, but it's like tangential to this subject. And you can turn off something that it will auto interrupt gates, because it will send a gate through this thing so quickly that it won't turn it off in time, and you'll get like hung and stuck notes, because it's like even if you run it through a MIDI interface, which is my workaround now, is running it through the DIN MIDI expansion that I built, it adds 1 millisecond of latency, which is enough time for it to catch up and not have that thing hung up.
Right.
Wow.
So they've got to maybe make a software update to the Hapax to account for this. But it's awesome because you can hook up like one USB cable to this interface in my modular FH2 and have like, 16 like CV gate outs that are fucking incredibly tight latency. But the killer feature, the thing I like about it maybe the most, is that it has 2 CV inputs. And what the FH2 will do when working with this is it will auto calibrate any of your oscillators. So you can take like even the shittiest oscillator and get like 7 or 8 octaves of perfect tuning. Just hit that button to calibrate it and not have to think about tuning again, which like even using the built-in CV gate outs on the Hapax, like, and they have a cool setup where you can actually calibrate it, like you measure it and you can calibrate the Hapax first and do it. Like tuning on CV stuff is a nightmare. It changes with heat. And this, you still got to let stuff warm up, but once you hit that calibrate button and like it just plays in perfect pitch, it's like magical.
This discovery was after what was like a weekend of you calibrating oscillators?
Calibrating oscillators and everything. And I knew that this was there, and I was trying to make it work because I came across that FH2 bug. And I was like, I got to figure out this another way. And I was like, nope, I'm going to make this work, report the bug to Squarp. And so did Luke, also reported the bug to them. And they're like, they bought an FH2, so now they're going to fix it and work on it. Like huge props to Squarp for that.
Nice.
But it's like, it's so nice when it works. And just the oscillator tuning, like you can buy a little breakout from Thonk and a few other places. It's like the easiest module build ever. It's just putting some 1/8" jacks on there, and it connects via pins to the back of the FH2 to send MIDI in and out.
Oh, nice.
So I actually take the 1/8" MIDI out of the Hapax directly into the 1/8" MIDI of the FH2 interface, and that's like how I'm running my live set for the modular stuff. And it works so well. It's really nice. But back to the Hapax itself, it's like 2 Squarp pyramids, but with that huge button grid. So it has the nice feature with the pyramid. When I built my live sets, you got 64 tracks, and it's actually hierarchy is a little different on the Hapax. But on the pyramid, you got 64 tracks. You could assign them to any MIDI channel. They could be any length basically, but that was like what you had to work with. And that was fine for me because I like needed 4 channels for a song basically. And I could divide up and get like roughly 16 songs out of the thing. With the Hapax, it's a little different because you get 16 rows of 8 patterns, and that's your project.
Oh, okay.
But the cool thing is there's a Project A and a Project B button, so you can have 2 active projects at the same time. And if you unmute the one project, it will mute the other one. So you just like toggle them that way. So
you can do it in real time as you're playing.
Yes, you can just
cool.
go forever,
like just in the middle of a sequence
with no. It's also has the weirdest thing. Like it's the fastest turning on device I've ever seen in my life. It's like you hit the button and it's like there's no loading screen. It's just like boop, it's ready to go.
So it's the opposite of the erogenous tone structure,
yes,
which has a blank screen for 10 seconds as you sit there and go, please just fucking start.
Did I fry it or is it going to turn on? I know that feeling.
The fucking Poly and Play, also a very long boot process.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it takes forever to load a project.
Right.
I was actually like really disappointed with that. The tracker seemed like much faster in that regard. I don't know why the Play is so dog shit slow. When loading a project or adding like a sample pack. Like I guess it's the sample loading process that is so slow.
But the Hapax does not have this problem.
No, it's lightning quick in all regards. They've been very good about updates. It's just a fucking powerhouse of sequencing. Like I've never.
And this is standalone, right? This is
standalone.
not okay.
Yep, it's got its own power supply. It's not USB powered, standalone. It's pretty like it's not that big. I would have brought it, but it's probably like big as the TR-8S pretty much.
I mean, you already did way more show and tell than any of us did for this. Well, actually, no, Greg did. I dropped the ball on show and tell.
Brought beer.
Just brought some beers.
Just showing off your pumpkin ale.
Tell us about that Sounds of Shadow that I just sold you.
Oh, it's
Sound of Shadows.
Yes. It's brand new.
It's the 3.0.
Cutting edge.
This is the 3.0 one.
Yeah, it's the newest. It's a little more slim. That doesn't have the VCA, which is like, well, you don't need a VCA.
I didn't need that anyway. Yeah.
No. But yeah, Hapax, like super excited. Like it's already like I'm working on this live set and like having it back, and it's like a beast with the virus too. Like letting myself use a little presets again. My last live set was all drum machines and modular. It's been nice to like give myself a little break and have some presets and ability to easily recall things.
Are you still using the looper?
No.
Okay.
No, the looper's out of the mix for now because this makes that so much easier. The modular's still in the mix for the set too. But man, is it fun to like write shit with this. I've like last set that I used the pyramid for, I remember like I would just after work spend an hour or two and always make something new every day. And this is the same, like I can write stuff so quickly with this. I really it feels awesome. Like I used to really like the Westlake Performer that couldn't do polyphonic MIDI or anything like that. And with the modular, that was fine. But this is like, I doubt I'll use the Westlake Performer again, even though it's like an awesome module in its own right. This is like so nice to use.
So you started to mention it, but I presumably cut you off on this. You were talking about having the actual, what is that keyboard representation?
Oh, the isomorphic?
Isomorphic.
Yeah.
Can you basically just sit there and play that and record it?
Good question, because it's got all these modes you can put the pads into. So you can use this isomorphic keyboard. It's got like, there's a live recording mode and then there's a pattern mode where you can switch patterns. But in live recording mode, you've got like a keyboard. You can configure that to some degree. You can play like, chord stuff isomorphic style, or you can actually put it into a drum mode where the different pads, since they're not velocity sensitive, you get one MIDI output, but in a chunk of pads, and the different pads send different velocities, which is a really cool way to program.
That's a clever idea.
Like if they could maybe add that to the Deluge if it doesn't have it, that would be a good feature. But yeah, in this isomorphic mode, you just hit like the record button on the left and you can just play it. It really, none of us are like keyboard guys per se. We've used them when we had to like make sounds and shit like that.
To test what C sounds like.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, like I explained the isomorphic keyboard to Steph, who was just like disgusted, but Steph was like classical piano for many years too. And was just like, I don't need that. And I'm like, yeah, but I can see these shapes and I know like if I move my hand over here, it's going to actually sound the right way.
That's still a chord.
That red button C, and I know I can go back to that at the end of this thing. Like, so yeah, isomorphic works really well for me. I really like it. Plus it's like, it's this nice visual thing where there are tracks in this live set where I know like on this first one, if it's the first one, there's like a sequence up on the upper right corner I can play, and it's like the blue keys on this thing. It really like I'm super visual person, so the fact that the MIDI notes are different colors and I can remember these locations on this grid with colors like works very well for me. That like my brain likes that shit.
And I see the you got the manual in front of you.
Yeah,
it looks like there's a lot of buttons, so you could have a pretty big spectrum of chords and octaves at your disposal.
There's it fixes like also, you know how a lot of machines copying patterns or duplicating patterns or making them longer is a pain in the ass. This is like the easiest setup I've ever seen for that. It's like so nice to copy a pattern over to like do maintenance and move tracks around, which was a little bit of a bitch on the Pyramid. Now it's like really easy for me to restructure everything to make it the right way. Because I'm sloppy in that like I don't go like, well, the number 2, we need MIDI channel number 2. I don't know if that's the right sound yet. So I'm just going to like go fucking ham until I get the right thing and try to clean it up after. So it lets you do some of that. It's really easy to edit, which is another bitch. Like on this, one of the complaints people have is like, you know, on the Deluge, I think you can set note length by just hitting this start step and the destination.
Yeah.
Well, on the Hatbacks, that's how you do selection for editing. So you can define squares that you then want to manipulate and hit to like delete or like rotate or do these things, which is nice. Yeah.
Which is cool, but
At first I was
that
like,
would blow
you
my
can't
mind.
set length, but you just set length with a knob on this. And I'm
so
like,
you
okay.
hit the button, you hit the start, then use the knob to set the
and
length.
you can see it drag
That's cool.
out.
Yeah.
And that's like, and they said they might come up with another way to set length, but I'm like, oh, this is fine. And I like the ability to select things like that works really well. One thing I would think they could add is like the ability to fold a keyboard, you know, kind of like in Ableton where you can be like, just let me see all the notes that I selected here and not have to jump octaves up and down. But, you know, I had the Oxy 1 and I was on that pre-order for a while and I sold that. And that's when I got the Scorp pre-order. And, I always felt lost on the Oxy 1, like didn't know where the fuck I was. The screen was
You didn't
really
have that for a
bad.
long time either, did you?
No, a couple months. You know, I tried to make it work and just didn't like it. This has 2 screens, which makes it kind of, there's much more information to see. And it's like that editing, like I know where I'm at in a sequence. On the Oxy 1, I always felt like I was kind of lost and I didn't know where the fuck my notes were.
That's kind of like the monome problem I had of like, this is a contextualist grid, which is cool because it can be any context you want. Even though I know the context, I'm lost in a sea of just buttons. And
but in the shitty reality where I could only have one piece of gear at all, I would want the Hatbacks and like a laptop.
Yeah,
that would be the one thing because it's like the most. It's really like I'm learning. It feels cheesy, but like an instrument. Like it's something I'm actually learning to play and developing some skills with again. Which I had a lot of muscle memory at the Pyramid, so it's nice to like. I just really want to invest in this thing and get better at it. It's super rewarding. They fucking killed it. It's so good. And especially for the price was good too. I think it was like $900 or something like that.
Which is, that sounds like a powerhouse.
Yeah, the Pyramid was always $700. They could have charged more and I still would have been like, that's expensive, but I'll get it. And I'm so glad I did.
So do you still have your Pyramid or are both of those gone?
No, they're gone.
Okay.
Yeah, the last one I sold like a year ago just because there were no live sets on the horizon too. And that made me remember like, damn, this is paired with the Virus too. And you know, the Virus is like 16 virus ties is what a lot of people don't know. And it's like really fucking fast to write music. It's awesome. Oh, and the automation, it's so sweet. The buttons are such a nice height that you can drag. Like the Pyramids had like the touchpad, which half of mine broke on the ones I had. Like it was kind of sketchy, but this has like a really nice automation screen where you can assign CCs or assign automation to the CV outs. It'll smooth the CV outs. So I send all LFOs and automation into this over CV all the time because it works perfectly.
And then you can edit that automation afterward. Oh, that's nice.
Hell yeah. Like, and see the sequence, the note sequence underneath it overlaid. So like will be using this live and editing automation live for sure, just because I naturally do it all the time because it's so easy now. It was a little bit of a pain in the ass on the Pyramid to do that. And then you had like that touchpad and it was just sketch, and editing it was a fucking nightmare. And this is like so simple.
Now, since you have these multiple MIDI ends, I mean, can you, this is weird, but we haven't really talked about this in a long time. can you see getting a MIDI controller just for the Hapax?
No.
Okay.
Mainly, and I originally thought I was going to use, because I have a key step already.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that isomorphic keyboard, I would actually pick that over another keyboard.
Okay, so everything that you want is surfaced.
Yeah, because I used to, even with the Performer, use the MIDI keyboard like hooked into it, just to like, it was easier to play notes on that. It was like, pick a step and select the note, which is fine for me. Again, I'm not like Joe keyboard player here.
Right.
I'm just trying to like figure out some pitches real quick. And the isomorphic is easier for me, especially knowing like when you have a scale mode set to it, you can play melodies where you can't really play a sour note.
Right.
Because you're forcing scales to stuff. And that's like really, really nice. Like they really like upped everything that was wrong with the Pyramid, fixed every problem, and made some like incredible platform. It's so good. They killed it.
Damn, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, couldn't be happier with it. It's favorite sequencer ever. You can even, it's like flexible with time. You can kind of like time, like, like clip warping in Ableton. You can do that on here with MIDI in like really fun ways where you can, there's like what is it called? Flexibility or something like that. I forget the name for it, but you can like stretch sequences out. Like you can time stretch sequences of MIDI, basically,
which is awesome.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I haven't even done it much yet, but it's like nice
cool. It's there. Yeah.
Really nice control, like individual timing for each track. Like each sequence is very flexible, and there's some effects like it strangely lacks the MIDI delay that's on the Pyramid, which is one of the best MIDI effects. They haven't put that one on yet. And people are like, why haven't you done that? And I guess it's just on their roadmap.
Yeah. Probably not in time for your show, though.
No, which is fine.
Yeah.
I can roll with it as it is right now. As long as it doesn't crash, I'm thrilled.
Exactly. Plus, you've got the burden of me standing in the audience with a barrel full of rotten tomatoes, throwing them at you. So you got bigger problems than whether or not that's going to time stretch.
I've placed my Plexi Shield order already.
Well, it's a very smart move.
I have new designs that hopefully will thwart your attacks, but I don't know if it's going to work.
All right. So, Greg, do you have anything else on your list?
Not really. I mean, I had a few other things on the list, but didn't really have time to take notes. Do want to mention the Patreon.
Greg, tell me more about this Patreon.
Patreon, in case you missed it, is live as of last episode. And I think currently we have like 13 people that have subscribed.
So we haven't hit our first
goal
benchmark.
of 25. No, we're getting closer.
What did we promise at 25? Was it
25? I believe we promised swag.
Yeah.
Would be allowed swag.
Got our new rolling papers, which
we got
actually
SysEx
quite nice.
Rolling papers.
I've
look
tested
amazing.
them. They work very well, and I'm picky about paper material. And then we have some stickers. So once we hit that 25 mark, we'll send you some papers and stickers. Unless you don't want papers, and we'll give you more stickers or whatever the fuck you want.
What about koozies?
Oh, we got koozies. We've got a couple koozies kicking around still too.
Got some koozies.
Yeah.
I actually have some from the original batch too.
Same. I've got some OG.
I'm sure we can wrangle up 25 koozies.
Yeah, those are rare OOP.
Yeah. We need to do this like NPR style. For the cost of 1 cup of coffee per month, you could support all this great content and news coverage.
So real quick, what is that voice you're doing? Is that your NPR
Terry
voice?
Gross.
That's your Terry Gross?
That's Renee Montaigne.
All right. Larkin Page Jacobs. There you go.
Yeah, join up. Get us closer to this swag goal.
Speaking of Patreon, did we have anything we want to talk about as far as our Patreons asking us to talk about?
Do we?
Well, there were 2 emails. One was...
I didn't log into my email this morning yet.
You got the email account on your phone?
Yeah, do you know what we got?
I do, yeah. Let me,
okay,
we're doing this live.
Yeah, let's do it live.
All right,
we're doing it fucking live.
All right, we're doing this live. One's going to be a little... We're probably not going to do. Or not be able to have a lot to talk about. But I will have this here. Give me a second here. Technology. So one of our Patreon supporters, when you put out the question, what should we talk about? This is very simple. One word with a period. Strega.
Oh shit!
I figured this would be a curveball.
I mean, we did that before, right?
We have talked about Strega in the past.
Mhm.
In fact, I think we kind of dragged it through the mud.
We shit on Strega.
We shit on it pretty good, if I recall.
And I don't feel like my opinion on it has changed at all in the years. Since
Honestly,
then.
mine has gotten worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I would say pull up that previous episode. It should. I don't remember off the top of my head what episode number it is, but we did discuss Strega previously, and we all kind of determined that it was not worth the money.
It would be roughly like a month after when it was announced. Like we went hard on it, like right away, right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And then you were at one point like, oh, maybe it could work for a live set, and then you were quickly like, nah.
I had that vibe again recently.
Mhm.
I was trying to figure out because I'm running out of rack space, and I was like, I would like to have a small, self-contained, not necessarily synth. Like I don't need like a virus per se or anything that deep. I just need something as like an outboard drone creator to create textures and drones.
Right.
That could probably do pretty well.
Yeah.
Strega popped back in my head, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do Strega. And I listened to more and more demos of it, and it just seems like no one is able to master this thing.
Right.
It just seems very inconsistent, very unwieldy.
Yeah.
Not really worth the money, and for the price, there's other options.
I will also point out that like looking at like different synthesizer Instagrams and YouTube channels and all that, basically every other piece of gear pops up here and there with some regularity. I have yet to see Strega pop up as like a centerpiece or something that, like even people using it. Like the Zero Coast shows up
all the
10
time.
times. Yeah, like 10 times as much. Like this
the O Coast, as some say.
Yes, whatever coast, X coast it is.
The absence of a coast.
Yes. That pops up all the time, and like Strega never pops up.
Not too much, no. And like the videos that I have seen, even the people that are demoing it are kind of like, yeah, I don't know why it's making this sound, but we're just rolling with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think if you were going to go with an experimental box synth to do like drones and textures, you would be better off getting the Lyra.
Oh yes, 100% agree.
The Soma Lyra. I mean, that also seems confusing, and a lot of people say it's a pain in the ass to dial in what you want and to tune it, but the results always seem to be more rewarding for people. Like people still love that machine, even though it confounds them. Whereas the Strega, a lot of people are like, I don't know what the fuck this thing's doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like,
and I've seen people use Lyra in a live setting, and even sort of like joyously, like, whoa, this is doing something weird. But the sounds were still delightful.
and I feel like the Strega should be about half the price. If it was half the price, I would be more inclined to give it a whirl.
Yeah.
But it seems like you're paying the Alessandro Cortini name tax,
Absolutely.
which is what drives that price.
And I think we talked about that
Oh yeah.
initially when we first started when we talked about it.
Yeah, what is it, like 600? $599.
Oh, I would
even-
pay $399 maybe tops for a Strega. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
$400 for a little inconsistent experimental sound box. Sure.
That I only used at home, and like maybe got something cool I recorded accidentally,
The Zero Coast is $100 less. It's kind of surprising to me.
which I think it would be a
Really?
lot more useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I would want.
Because it doesn't have the Cortini name tax.
True, you got a point.
associated to
The tax.
it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, my opinion of Strega, I don't think has changed. If anyone wants to send us one to borrow and put through its paces, maybe that'll change our mind.
And prove us wrong.
Yeah, but as it stands now, I'm not taking that leap or spending my hard-earned dollars on a
And we've
Strega.
shown a malleability to changing our beliefs. Like we
For sure.
routinely admit that we were wrong and change our opinion. So we're not stubborn.
No.
You can send us one, and
We'd put
we
it
might,
through its paces.
we will.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's another message we got.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. If you'd be game to an open-ended question, it would be great to hear each of you describe your most fondly remembered creative session or process.
Oh shit.
Ooh,
That's a good fucking question.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
off the top of my head, I would probably say like the first week I spent with the Overstayer modular channel.
Mm.
That was like a game changer. Like, because when I started playing with that thing, that was also where I was at like a creative low point. Like, I just wasn't feeling a lot of inspiration. And then that thing, finally arrived. And I was like, okay, I'm not really feeling creative right now, but I'll just try to learn this thing. And it just kind of like made me feel inspired. It was like inspiring to work with. It was kind of a game changer. The latest release, like the album that I just put out, on Thaco, was the split with Kevin. Like that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for me trying to learn that thing. Like the first, me trying to learn it ended up yielding results, and I started recording, and it was a lot of fun, very inspirational, and a lot of those chunks that I recorded ended up in that album. So it's a very fond memory of me, of like that box was like the first thing that I ever purchased that felt like if I had the engineering know-how, this is what I would create.
Right.
As like a distortion saturation box. It was a fucking orgasmic dream to work with. That's what pops into my brain.
Very nice. I've got two answers. First off, is working with Nick with Gnarled Horse Throat stuff. There have been times when we've been sitting in your house where I am giggling, maniacal, where I'm like, we did it. We landed on something, and it's, hours of work, and it's just, everything just comes together in this way that is just, and I rarely, if ever, get that by myself at home. And so that's my first answer. As far as like just a purely creative, like, holy shit, like just it's the giggling that that I remember fondly.
You hit those spots. Yeah, it's just like wow.
Exactly. And then the second one is 2 times over the last like 20 years, I've taken on like sort of a weird engineering challenge, and I got it to work. And I vividly remember, like, I am basically the opposite of a jock. But both times, like, I did this thing of I'm like one was getting a Game Boy to send data to a Windows PC, and the second one was recently where I basically tried to recreate the Leibniz binary system with Arduino. And both times when I got to that point where like I actually got that first second when it worked, and this is shameful. I'm not proud of this, but I literally did like a fist pump, like, yes. Have either of you seen me do that ever?
No.
So this is shameful secret in my house of me like doing
an
a fist pump.
emphatic one too, like you meant it.
And impulsive, like I couldn't stop myself from doing it. Like I didn't stop and go, well, now's the time to fist pump. It was literally like, yes, and then stop and going, all right, well, I need to check why that happened. But so yeah, the sort of like those crossing those sort of like big engineering challenge chasms, and doing something where like this may not ultimately work, and then working on it for a couple weeks and getting it to work has been those have been big.
Yeah.
So those are my 2 answers.
Yeah, I would say 2 again, like working with you on that stuff, and especially editing. Like it's always like really easy for us to sit down on a computer and edit tracks together, and that can be like a difficult, or it's a challenging part of the process.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's always like really easy to do that. And then the other one that's like super notable for me would be getting the Electron machine drum, which was like a huge change in many things for me. Working back with hardware again, becoming obsessed with drum machines, because that was like my first like real. I had a 505 when I was like 18 or something like that, but that's like not anything near it. But getting that most expensive thing I'd purchased at the time, I got like a credit card to get it, because it obviously didn't have that much cash to get it. And just like I would get home for weeks, I would get home from work and I would look up at, it would be 10 or 11 o'clock and I was still in my work clothes, hadn't eaten. I was like, oh fuck, I did it again, because I was just like my brain melded with that thing, and that was just like a different change for how I worked on everything. That like everything since then has been different for me and what I focus on, and that like really got me into playing live again and a number of other things.
Yeah, to this day, I don't think I can look at a machine drum and not think of you.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like I just associate machine drum with Nick at this point.
Yeah, it's still wouldn't mind if one swung around my way again someday, but I know enough about it to know that like it's not. Yeah,
you've outgrown it.
Yeah, a little bit. Like it would be fun to have it to add to accents to tracks, but not for the price that they go for now, which seems to like it just seems to keep going up. Like even the basic first model is like over $1,000.
Yeah.
Very true.
But definitely changed my brain for sure, and how I thought about things like parameter locks and it got along well with that system of working.
Nice. Well, thank you to our Patreon for those are good questions.
Good questions.
Yeah.
Good questions.
No whippings this month.
Not yet.
That's drastic.
Yeah, let's
Some whippings this month.
less than usual.